Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're here together every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, looking at life through a biblical lens, solving all the world's problems in 2 hours or less. We've been doing this for close to 20 years. I don't know where you've been. Did you hear any of the President's State of the Union address this past week? What did you hear? Did you hear optimism? Did you hear hope? Did you hear encouragement? Or did you hear fear, frustration, despair? Well, whatever you heard, it wasn't the State of the Union. He dispensed with all the traditions of recognizing people, listing the things he'd done, talking about the concrete things that needed to be accomplished yet, enlisting the aid of others in government to get them done for the benefit of the nation. Instead, he preached. You know what preaching is, right? Preaching is pointing your proverbial finger at me and saying, you need to do this or that. Now, the honest preacher from a pulpit knows that the finger points both ways. Your mother told you, or your grandmother. You point at me, there are three pointing back at you. The preacher knows he's not up there saying, I got it all under control, you need to do it. No, he's in the program with you. And every sincere, caring congregation of people have held their preachers to that standard, the standard that he has laid out. It's kind of an all for one, one for all. Your preacher says you ought to be honest. You're watching to make sure if he's honest, aren't you? Well, this president doesn't live that way. It's everybody else who seems to be the problem. His values are right and good. Yours, if they differ, are the problem. Whether it's perceptions of life, having to do with a social or political philosophy, it doesn't matter what it is. For example, is the American system unfair to people on the lower levels of society? Is the government's responsibility that of taking care of these people? Do we have too much debt, or do we not have enough? Is it the government's responsibility to create a job for me? Why is it our roads and bridges are not in good repair? Where have the gasoline taxes gone? Do children deserve a free college education? What sort of transformation is necessary to our schools and colleges? If the answer is yes when it comes to creating jobs, health care, retirement, then how are we going about to do that? And just what is a dignified retirement? Government has destroyed the family infrastructure, and now you want me to pay more taxes to take care of people that the family used to take care of. Is there too much gridlock in Washington, or is there not enough? Do we need to remake America? And what exactly does that mean? Listen to an editorial cartoon published in the Chicago Tribune. It was published in 1934. It depicts a cartoon character, a man reading a large signboard. And the signboard says, Plan of Action for the U.S. And in big, bold words with exclamation points at the end, it says, Spend, spend, spend. Under the guise of recovery, bust the government, blame the capitalists for the failure, junk the Constitution, declare a dictatorship. And handwritten underneath it says, worked in Russia. In 1924, Stalin was running loose all over Russia. This was socialism on steroids. We call it communism. Today they have an oligarchy. That's their form of government. It's a little more sophisticated than the oligarchy we have. By definition, an oligarchy is a form of government in which all power is vested in a few persons or in a dominant class or clique. It's the government by the few. Our system revolves around a political class that manipulates the welfare and the social services, the laws, the budgets, and they do all of that to benefit the lower classes. They do that to look out for the new immigrants. They do that to take care of the disenfranchised, the needy. No, they do that to guarantee votes. Our system revolves around an education that keeps young people from actually learning too much about our early history and where our values originate or why. I remember in North Carolina they were several years ago, trying to start American history lessons after Reconstruction. Why? Because the stuff that happened in the 18th and 19th century would undermine everything they are telling the children America stands for. Our system is heavily weighted toward entertainment and social media, guaranteeing a large percentage of people never see or hear anything important. And if they do, they never quite understand it. The president said as much just this week in the State of the Union address. He said, quote, some people, well, this wasn't in the address, this was after, some people are just watching Fox News. Some people are just reading the New York Times. And so they're starting to get a different view of the world. They're starting with a common baseline of facts that is totally opposite. He's right. Case in point is Benghazi, and I've told you this before. Within a few weeks of the Benghazi incident, there were eyewitnesses who wrote a book. It was called Benghazi, The Definitive Story. Jack Murphy, Brandon Webb. I held it up last week and showed it to you. I still have it on my iPad, the digital form. We've heard a lot about Benghazi. Nothing has changed from what these men wrote in 2012. There's a new movie out, and it's based on this book, and it's based on these events. Nothing's changed. Stalin was a member of the original Soviet Union Central Committee. He became Secretary General in 1924 when Lenin died, and he got that way by outmaneuvering his opponents to seize control. The losers died. His developmental plan was centered on government control of the economy and included the forced collectivization of Soviet agriculture, in which the government took control of the farms. Now, we have never done anything like that. But we have done that through subsidies and regulation. Small farmers can't make a living anymore. Their heirs end up selling the land to pay the taxes. Millions of farmers refused to cooperate with Stalin's orders and were shot or exiled as punishment. So our system's better. The forced collectivization also led to widespread famine across Soviet Union, killed millions in the 1930s. Stalin ruled by terror with a totalitarian grip in order to eliminate anyone who might oppose him. He expanded the powers of the secret police, encouraged citizens to spy on one another, had millions of people killed or sent to the gulag systems of forced labor camps. We're watching our police departments become more like military units. Government military equipment. And every once in a while somebody asks why. And we're not sure. We don't get an answer, except this is surplus equipment from the federal government. Is it more crime? Are they looking forward to future riots? During the second half of the 1930s, Stalin instituted the Great Purge, a series of campaigns designed to rid the Communist Party, the military, and other parts of the Soviet society from those he considered a threat. Today, the oligarchy tolerates Putin because he's making money for them. Now, their economy is not stable. But if you know how it's working and you get ahead of it, you can make out pretty good. The Russian ruble is up. It's worth $76, 76 cents in American dollars. But just a few years ago, it was 30 cents. And it looks like it fluctuates as much as 30 cents back and forth in very short time spans, just often several months. We're told that Russian grocery stores have very little food, very little meat. They get the meat and it's gone within 20 minutes. There have been stories about Russian goods, cars. Don't buy a Russian car. They break down. Why? The workers get paid for showing up. They don't get paid for doing a good job. Don't matter. The Canadian loonie, yeah, that's what they call it, is trading at about 70 cents on a dollar. It's been going down all year. The euro is at 90 cents. The British pound is all the way up to 70 cents. Now, in my youth, it was about $5, $6. The Australian dollar is trading at $1.40. The Iranian rial is trading at about $29 or $30. The Saudi rial, $3.75. The Chinese renminbi, $6.50. These are fake numbers. We know the Chinese are playing with their economy. What's Iran doing? In the 1960s, with oil at about $50 a barrel, gasoline was selling below 50 cents. Oil is now running $29. This past week, it's $29 a barrel. And our gas is running at $1.60. That's here in South Carolina. I'm sure in some places it's more than that. Now that's how undervalued our currency is, because we went off the gold standard. We started printing money. Now we don't even do that. We have credits. And there's no end to it. In a country where half the population, at least, has no real idea of how the system works, or why the system exists, or what the Constitution says or cares, the words we heard last Tuesday from our president might carry an entirely different meaning. Listen. He said, quote, "Our economy is badly weakened, a consequence of greed, yours, and irresponsibility, yours, on the part of some Wall Streeters, but also," he says, "our collective failure to make hard choices and prepare the nation for a new age." Those rascally Republicans wouldn't go along with his spending program and his entitlement programs. Whose failure is that? A president with the power of executive orders that nobody challenges, a Congress that's looking out for their own political hides. What does it all mean? It means the economy is weak because we're in serious debt and the dollar is in decline. And I didn't do that. It's not my irresponsibility that caused that. Who's he talking about? He's talking about those pesky conservatives who won't let him borrow more money. Got $19 trillion of debt. That's not enough. If we want to be certain that every American can reach the American dream, we need to have more debt. That's what he's saying. He's not alone. It's that stupid. And what's all this he talks about? Preparing the nation for a new age? He said, quote, "The time has come to reaffirm our enduring spirit, to choose our better history, to carry forward that precious gift, that noble idea passed on from generation to generation, the God-given promise that all are equal, all are free, all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness." What's holding me back? What are the chances that are now being limited by me to these other people? I don't know. Well, college is too expensive. I didn't do that. Talk to college trustees. They jacked the price up to pay their awful salaries. Talk to them about getting real. Well, not everybody can go to college. When was that ever different? Not everybody. We hear statistics every day about liberal arts colleges and how upwards of over half the freshman class never make it. They drop out. By the second year, they're gone. That's liberal arts. Liberal arts don't prepare you for anything, unless you want to be an artist or something. The children aren't getting a good preparatory education. I didn't take the McGuffey reader out of the school system. I didn't create a new math that nobody seems to be able to master. I didn't encourage mom to abandon her children for a job. I didn't take God, the absolute objective standard of morality, out of the system. I didn't make divorce as easy as trading in a car. I didn't say it was okay to kill a baby that I didn't want so that I could pursue my personal choices without any hindrance. Who are all these people limiting what I deserve? The president said we remain the most prosperous, powerful nation on earth. Our workers are no less productive than when this crisis began. Our minds are no less inventive. Our goods and services no less needed than they were last week or last month or last year. Our capacity remains undiminished, but our time of standing pat, of protecting narrow interests and putting off unpleasant decisions, that time has surely passed. Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. Give this man a mirror. The mold still exists, and it still works. Who are these people who want to reinvent the wheel? How's that working out? The president said what the cynics fail to understand is that the ground has shifted beneath them. The stale political arguments that have consumed us for so long are no longer applying. The question we ask today is not whether our government is too big or too small. What? Why don't we? But whether it works. Works doing what? Whether it helps families find jobs at a decent wage, care that they can afford, a retirement that's dignified. That's in the Constitution, right? That's what governments are about, right? Where the answer is yes, he says we intend to move forward. Where the answer is no, programs will end. Well, count me in for ending them. I end every program I've got in my household if I can't afford it. I just heard today about a lady who goes to our church who couldn't afford her homeowner's insurance. She just dropped it last month. She had a fire today that destroyed part of her house. Is that Obama's fault? To some extent. But in America, you accept responsibility for your actions, don't you? It's not the government's job to help me find a job, to make sure I have a decent wage, to provide affordable health care or retirement. That's my job. And how I do it determines how I live. Of course, the government's actions make a lot of this hard, if not impossible, for some. And if your government programs do that, then you should take care of me. But that's not what I want. Not if I'm free. The last 15 paragraphs of this so-called State of the Union address were pure rhetoric. There were no stated purposes except helping everybody around the world however we can, because it's the right thing to do. There was no encouragement to me except the specter of more of the same rhetoric. A State of the Union, or a litany of what this president expects from me. These are the words of a progressive, liberal, socialist who has no skin in the game, a man who will go off like so many others with dreams of being the UN Secretary General, just like Clinton did, or find some cause that enriches his bank account like Al Gore did, or play golf, smoke cigars, cigarettes with impunity, and watch his unearned nest egg grow. Here's a man with no job. Entered the White House with about $1 million worth of net wealth, much of it given to him. And he's going to walk out with over $12 million. That's what they estimate the man's worth is. 8 years of $400,000 worth of salary, $250,000 in book sales, plus benefits. But he had to pay tuition for his 2 children. They have to pay for their own food, and if they invite guests over, they have to pay for that too. None of that equals $12 million. And who's buying all those expensive dresses? Who's paying for all the trips for the family and the mother-in-law to travel around the world together? He's not. When he talks about sacrifice or responsibility or helping people, he needs to look in the mirror. Traditionally in the United States, it's the little people who give to charities, who help people on personal levels. Percentage-wise, people on the low end give more than all the Obamas in the world. Look at the charitable giving statements of presidents and others. People who have huge net worths are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're giving $5,000 to charities. The most I've ever seen was 20. With Obama's income, he should be giving 10 times what he's recording. And what's the profit on $12 million invested in a whatever? And isn't the investment profit income? Well, not till you sell it. With a $12 million nest egg, he could give his salary back and never notice the difference if he cared. And we've had presidents who did that. The man has not begun to feel my pain. And is that what the guarantee is in the Constitution? Or does the guarantee in the Constitution extend to life? The government cannot simply take my life away arbitrarily. It extends to liberty. The government cannot deprive me or you of your life or livelihood arbitrarily. Or the pursuit of happiness. Not that I would be giddy, but the government cannot arbitrarily limit my ability to live the way I choose, assuming it's not lawful or destructive of others' rights or property, etc., assuming it does not contribute to the destruction of other people's stuff. That's the Constitution. That's America. That's a world this president does not understand. He's never had to live there. And as it's going, he probably never will. Preacher, not president.